Okay, ברשות קהל הקדוש, everybody welcome. בעזרת השם, ברכה, הצלחה, בריאות, הרבה נחת, לקריל דניאל בן מיכואל, יעקב בן אשר, to supporting the כולל, שבעזרת השם, השם blessing, ימשיכים, יגדיל תורה וידירה, וגם כל המשתתפים, whoever is partners and everything. May Hashem blessing with all the blessings of the Torah. בעזרת השם יתברך, וכן יהי רצון ונאמר אמן. אלף הבדלות בין המתים לחיים, לעילוי נשמת שמעון בן אלווירה, רוח השם תנחנו בגן עדן הוא וכל השוכבים עמו בכלל רחמים והסליחות, וכן יהי רצון ונאמר אמן. So we continue with our seder of the Pirkei Avot. Pirkei Avot, which is before we accept the Torah, from the Matan Torah, 49 days, we have to know and we have to read the Pirkei Avot, so we have to prepare to accept the Torah. דע מה למעלה ממך עין רואה ואוזן שומעת וכל מעשיך בספרים נכתבים. בספר נכתבים. He says in a Perek Bet, which is the Mishnah, in a Pirkei Avot, he says, דע, we have to know who is on top of us. He says the eyes see, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu see. ואוזן שומעת, the ears is hear. וכל מעשיך בספר נכתבים. Says you're doing, in every thing that we do in this world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu writes our deeds. Whether we speak or we do the action. פירוש המפרשים, תרצה לדעת מה למעלה מהשגיך ושכלך, ראה נא מהי תקופה הקדומה, שהייתה נבואת ישראל. It says, דע מה למעלה ממך, to know what's above you. It says, look at the generations of the Nevi'im, which is means of prophets, from the Am Israel. היה כהן גדול שואל באורים ותאומים. Was a כהן גדול, he was asking the stones, אורים ותאומים. ורואה את האותיות של החושן. He used to see the letters of the Choshen used to give him, Choshen Mishpat it's called, the Choshen. אשר בו אורים ותומים, מאירות בולות, ולבושות רוח הקודש מצטרף אותיות. Whatever every time the Kohen Gadol wants to ask, Urim v'Tumim was used to give through the letters, and through the letters he has to understand what Hashem is telling them. משיב תשובה ברורה, זה עין רואה, מבטלו אורים ותומים. כמו זה בית שני. He says, like we see, עין רואה, Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees everything. Urim v'Tumim were already not was existed in the second Bet HaMikdash, like it says Masechet Yoma, page 21, Amud Bet. התחילו להשתמש בת קול, כמו 4 סנהדרין י"א בסוטה מ"ח. He says now from the second Bet HaMikdash they did not use from the Kohen Gadol Urim v'Tumim. There was a heavenly voice coming out every day, and from that heavenly voice they used to act the acts, like it says in Masechet Sanhedrin in page 11. And also in Sotah in page 48. והאוזן שומעת את הכל נפיק מן השמיה. He says, אוזן שומעת, which means the ear here, which is our ear here, which is the voice come from the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from the heavens. הוא יודעים סודות נשגבות. They knew the secrets that are above our understanding. ואחר הכלול את הכל, אין לנו שיעור אל התורה הזאת, עיניים נסתמו ואוזניים נתחרשו. He says, now in our times, Hashem yirachem aleinu, may Hashem be merciful on us. He says, Enaim nistamu. The eyes became closed and the ears became deaf. Cannot hear it. ולא נשאר רק לנו כל מעשיך בספר נכתבים. All lead to us בספר מעשיך בספר נכתבים. Everything that we do, it's already written in the books. That means we don't hear no more bat call yatsa min hashamayim, from the heavens. We don't hear it, we don't see it. He says the reason is because our ears and our eyes are closed already, we cannot see. ניתן רק מעשיך בספר נכתבים. ניתן בספר נחזה שהדורות מתמעטים והולכים הילוך וחסור. Maran Chida says the generation, the more we're getting closer to Mashiach, the more generation is going down and the level and going down and down. But at the same time, there's no generation like now in a generation you open anything and everything, There's so much Torah to be learned, and there's so much Torah is supposed to be spread. There's big yeshivot. Rav Steinman says, back then, in days of Rav Steinman, we're talking about he's lived until 104. He says, back then, let's talk about one generation back, 2 generations back. He says, not a lot of parents, Jewish parents, wanted to put the kids to the yeshivot. They always wanted to have profession. But he says right now we see in this generation, in our generation, the parents wanted to have so the kids could learn Torah, so they become the Gedol Ador. He says that's one of the greatest things that never happened in a Jewish history, where each parent and a lot of parents and they put the kids to the yeshiva and they pay high tuition. So what do we learn from here? From one side, we cannot see. From one side, we cannot hear the heavenly voice. But we want to do a lot of things for the HaKadosh Baruch Hu to continue doing good. Okay, דע מה למעלה ממך, עין רואה ואוזן שומעת. מספרים על גאון חסיד רבי זונדל מסלנט, שנסע פעם בעגלה, והנה הם יצאו את העיר ולא הרחיקו. היה בשדות סמוכות לעיר, חבילות של תבן וקש. He says, following Rabbi Chassid, Rabbi Zundel, from the city of the Salant, he says they were going on top of the horse carriage, and they were going through the fields. And he saw there was a kash v'teven. He saw a straw. שאל בעל השדות לאחר קצירת תבואה, עגלון הביט ימינו ושמאלו ויראה אין איש. He says, he's asking whoever take this straw and is cut it down from the field, he's asking the owner, how did you do it? The guy who is riding the horse carriage, what do you call that guy that rides the horse? That carries the people. So, Shalom, what that guy called? That a person that he rides the horse or carries the horse carriage. He says, Rabbi Zundel did ask where's the owner of the field? And he says, this is the owner. And the guy that was riding the horse carriage, he looked to the right side, to the left side, there's nobody around. Nobody around. ירד מהעגלה ונגש לקחת את חבילות. He takes the bundles. He came down from the horse carriage. בשביל הסוסים שלו. He took it for his horses. רבי זונדל מבחין בדבר, להתחיל צווח לעבור. רואים, נבהל העגלון. רב זונדל מסלנט, he saw this guy is stealing. And he says, רואים. He says, they see. He got scared. מהר לעזוב את החבילות מידו, רץ אל הדוכן העגלה. He says, right away, go drop everything and run to your carriage. לאחר ניסה קצרה, נוכח העגלון, כי אין איש זה פונה אל רבי זונדל. He says, רבי, האם מותר לשקר? הלא אין איש. He says, Rebbe, are you allowed to lie? There's nobody around. What are you lying to me? פנה רבי זונדל את האצבע כפי מה, אמר מביני, שם למעלה רואים. He says, from upstairs they see everything. But this guy that doing the horse carriage, what he says? He says that nobody sees it. רבן גמליאל בנו של רבי יהודה הנשיא אומר. So now we go on to second chapter of the Mishnah. Rabban Gamliel, which is the bino of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. He was the Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi's son. Omer yafet Talmud Torah in derech eretz. He says Talmud Torah comes with a derech eretz. Derech eretz, which just means the way it's supposed to be a person act towards the humans. Yafet Talmud Torah in derech eretz yagita שיגעה את שניהם משכחת עוון. So you have derech eretz and you learn Torah, you're going to forget about the sin. וכל התורה שאין עמו מלאכה, סופו בטלה גוררת עוון. He says, Pirkei Avot, כל התורה שאין עמו מלאכה, all the Torah that we're doing, if we're not performing of the work, it's going to cause us to do a sin. רבן גמליאל בנו של רבי יהודה הנשיא אומר, 3 רבן גמליאל היו. The Pirkei Avot says there's a 3 רבן גמליאל. רבן גמליאל היה ראשון רבן גמליאל הזקן, נכדו של הלל הזקן. One רבן גמליאל was the grandson of the הלל הזקן. שני רבן גמליאל דיבנה. The second one, רבן גמליאל of the יבנה. והשלישי הוא רבן גמליאל בנו של רבי יהודה הנשיא במשנתנו. He says the third one, רבן גמליאל, is the son of the Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. So we have one Rabban Gamliel he was the grandson of the Hillel HaZaken. The second Rabban Gamliel from the Yavne. The third Rabban Gamliel was the son of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. That's why people could get confused when they're learning Gemara. Which Rabban Gamliel are we talking about? In which time we're talking about? בגמרא כתובות כתוב מואר שעל פי צוות רבי יהודה נשיא מלך רבן גמליאל. מפני שהבן הבכור מעלה מקום אביו בעוונה בעירה חטא. It says מסכת כתובות, after, in page 103b, after Rabbi Yehuda Nasi passing away, he says, you're going to fulfill my position to be a king after me. מפני שהבן הבכור, he was the firstborn. ממילא מקום אביה בענווה ועירה חטא. To fulfill the place of the father, he was humble, he was fear of the sin. אף על פי רבי שמעון, אחיו הצעיר של רבן גמליאל, then Rabban Gamliel, he has a little brother, it's called Rabbi Shimon, not Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. היה גדול ממנו בחוכמה. He says, Rabbi Shimon was greater in the chokhmah of the Rabban Gamliel. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi מסר לבנו Rabban Gamliel סודרי נשיאות. He says, I'm giving to Rabban Gamliel, I'm giving to him how to be in the status of the presidency. אמר לבני, he says, my dear son, who says this? Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, who puts the Mishnayot together. He says, my dear son, Bini, nohag nisyotucha baramim. He says, be careful the way you act in your presidency. Zarok mara betalmidim, klomar, emnam yesh leha norok kavod vayakar betalmidei chamim, lamze rak betznuah. He says, make sure your students are going to be afraid of you. And you also have, at the same time, when they're going to be afraid of you, you have to do it batsanua. You have to be in the hidden doors. And also respect Talmidei Chachamim. Ulam zeu rak בצנעה, אבל בפרהסיה יש להטיל עליהם אימה ויראה לתת כבוד לנשיאות. He says, in the closed doors, you need to respect them and act with them properly. And outside, they need to fear you. In order to fear you, they need to respect you. How they're going to respect you? Because you have presidency, you have a high status. Because you have a high status, they cannot take the advantage of your status. Very important. למען יתקבלו דבריו על כל ישראל. When they're a little bit afraid of you, they will accept the words of you. וכתב רבי יצחק אבא ברנאל, שאמר זה נאמר בחיי אביו, רבי יהודה הנשיא, קבע בשמו במשנה, שנעשה הנשיא אחר פטירתו של אביו, הוסיפו בשמו תואר רבנן. He says once Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi passed away, they give him the name Rabbanan, Rabban Gamliel. יפה תלמוד תורה עם דרך ארץ. Every time we're learning, we need to have לשפר our midot. We have to polish our characters and traits. That's one of the klalim b'Torah. It's one of the general rules in the Torah. פירוש מפרשים שהיא מוכיח אחרים בשפה רפה, לא שייך בו מה שאמרו תול קרא מבין עיניך. זה יפה תלמוד תורה עם דרך ארץ. So it says, שאז משכחת עוון. So it says following like this, you need to rebuke people. But people are going to tell you, excuse me, you're a sinner, you're sin, yourself. Tol, he says, koracha ben enecha. He says, whatever you have between your eyes, you first take this. Which just means, if a person is a sinner, how can he rebuke others? Cannot rebuke others. So it says, Yafet Talmud Torah im derech eretz, you have to rebuke it properly. Of course, you cannot act against the Torah and go rebuking people. Like I know people talk about kashrut, talk about many things. They don't even keep Shabbat. But they talk in such a great level, such a high levels. How can you put this on a scale? How can you rebuke somebody? You don't even keep Shabbat. You don't even keep, you don't even keep kashrut, and you put yourself in a social media, how you eating not kosher restaurants. That's already making Torah fun. And walking around with a big kippah inside the restaurants. But that's a chilul Hashem. You don't do such a thing. You want to say something or you want to rebuke something, make sure you start processing from yourself. You understand? So we have to be careful. And if we're not careful, we could fall in these traps also. Because they're going to say, look at the dati, the religious person does. And everybody else does it. Or we're going to say, oh, look at, this guy was a tzaddik. He went 3 times to pray in a Bet Knesset. Yeah, that's all he did. He prayed because he asked for Hashem. He has his own mitzvah. But he never came to shiurim. He never asked question. He never asked about tefillin tzitzit. He never asked about the mezuzah. Of course we're going to say tzaddik because according to them, they are tzaddik. But according to Hashem, he did not learn the laws. Yafet Talmud Torah im derech eretz, shegat shnehem mishkachat avon. He says Talmud Torah is good with derech eretz, and if we're going to do it, we're going to forget about the sin. What does it mean? וכן שנו בקידושין, מסכת קידושין, page 40b. כל ששנה מקרא ומשנה ובדרך ארץ, לא במהרה הוא חוטא. Somebody was learning Chumash, somebody was learning Mishnayot, and he has a derech eretz, he's not going to forget, and he's not going to right away do a sin. שנאמר, וחוט המשולש לא במהרה ינתק. Kohelet, in the King Solomon book says, in chapter 4, line 14, it says, chut hamishulash. You have a chut, which is a string, that is 3 ways. It would not fast and quick to break it down. Tov chokhmah, tova chokhmah im nachala. He says, chokhmah is good with the nachala. Nachala, which just means that you inherit from somebody. Tova chokhmah sheim im nachala. כהדענת אמר רבן גמליאל בנו רבי יהודה הנשיא אומר יפה תלמוד תורה עם דרך ארץ. He says, Rabban Gamliel says, good Talmud Torah with the derech eretz. בשם מכניסים אדם לדין אומרים, ומסכת שבת it says in page 31, when they're going to enter a person after 120, בשם מכניסים אדם לדין אומרים לו, נסעת ונתת באמונה. Did you make a business transaction properly? That's what it says in Masechet Shabbat, page 31. And Kavat etim leTorah, the second thing they're going to ask us, did you do business properly? The second thing they're going to ask us, did you do designated time for the Torah? What are we going to answer? We're going to tell to the Ribono Shel Olam, I had all the time to watch TV, I had all the time to spend with my family, all the time I have to walk with the dog, but I don't have a time to spend to learn the Torah. So the first 2 egg question he's going to ask, and he's going to fail. Maybe he did business properly, but we don't know. Somebody is not learning Torah, he cannot do business properly. Somebody does not have designated time in the Torah. So once he goes upstairs, he's already failing in 2 questions. How he's going to continue is doing 2 questions. So you need to ask all of your questions. When we say he was a tzaddik, he did many, many things in his life, why didn't he ask? Why didn't he ask him, did you put a tefillin? Did you put a tzitzit? Did you do mitzvot? Did you do barachot properly? Did you pray 3 times? Why they don't ask these 2 questions? Why they asking these 2 questions? Natata, nasata v'natata be'emunah. And did you Put yourself in a designated time. Did you make a designated time for the Torah learning? Rabbi, I don't have time. הנה בתוספות ישנו יומה, כתבו בשם רבנו תם שתלמוד תורה היה תפל לגבי דרך ארץ. תלמוד תורה עם דרך ארץ שמע מינה שדרך ארץ עיקר, כדגי דקאי גבנה בש"ס. He says, what's better, דרך ארץ or תלמוד תורה? Rabbeinu Tam over here brings in the Masechet Yoma in page 85b, he says, Derech Eretz is the most important thing. You could be learning Torah, but you don't have a Derech Eretz. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in Masechet Barachot, in Mishnah Aleph, in Halacha Bet, in Yerushalmi it says, Noach lo Adam, he says, better for him, she'afoch shiliato al panav. He says he has a placenta. That's where the baby is inside the placenta. He says his placenta rather flip on his face and he should never come to this world. He learns Torah, but he does not perform the Torah. Should not create it in this world. Because Torah was given not to learn. Torah was given to perform. כתב בשם דרך ארץ, יפה תלמוד תורה עם דרך ארץ, שמע מינה, שהדרך ארץ עיקר. He says דרך ארץ, to be a human, is the most important thing. We could learn Torah, we could learn Gemara, we could learn Shas, but if we never perform Musar, which means to perform our deeds, is the worst thing could happen. Because Torah is going to tell you knowledge. But Derech Eretz, which is going to give you a Musar, Orchot Tzadikim, Derech Chaim, Ramchal, Derech HaChesed, Rishit Chochmah, Rabbi Yonah, many, Rabbi Israel Misalanter, many Musar books that will give us the opportunity to change ourselves. So that's why he says, Derech Eretz Zeikar. We have to remember that. And it's very hard to learn Derech Eretz. It's very hard to be as a humans. And we have to work our life. Kadei gavna, hashaz bayevamot, lechroa kashe al dervei Rabbeinu Tam. He says, let me ask you on Rabbeinu Tam. It's very hard for us to understand him. Like it says in Yevamot in page 38b. Following it says, Rabbi Natan. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Eli, kol ha'oseh divrei Torah ikar v'derech eretz tafel, oseh oto ikar ba'olam. Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eli says, if somebody learns Torah, the Torah is the main thing, and Derech Eretz is the second thing. But Rabbeinu Tam says in Yoma, he says no. First comes Derech Eretz, then comes the Torah. In Yevamot in 38, it says no. First comes the Torah, then the secondary becomes Derech Eretz. וכל העושה דרך ארץ עיקר ותורה תפל, עושה אותו תפל בעולם. He says whoever does the derech eretz, the main thing, with Torah is the secondary, is going to be the same thing secondary, which means not important. מואר בתורה צריכה להיות עיקר. We have to know the Torah has to be the main force. זה עקב דברי רבנו תם. He says it's opposite to what the רבנו תם says. באמת רבנו אלחנן חולק על רבנו תם ודוחה את ראייתו מעד יבמות. Rabbi Elchanan, he says following. He brings from the Yevamot in page 38, and he disagrees with Rabbeinu Tam. Divrei Rabbi Avot, the Rabbi Natan Misayin Oto, Babarachot, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eli, Dorot Rishonim Hayim Osim Toratam Keva Malachtam Arai. He says, I have a proof in Masechet Barachot in page 35b. He says, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eli. In first generations, Osu Dorot Rishonim Asu Toratam Keva Malachtam Arai. In first generations, which means after the destruction of Bet HaMikdash, even before, they used to work less, they used to learn more. Okay? Ze v'zu nitkayam bayadam. He says they had money and they were learning Torah. דורות האחרונים עשו מלאכתם קבע תורתם ארעי, וזה וזו לא יתקיים בידם. He says in the last generation, which is in our generation, he says we do the Torah secondary, and we run for the work, we don't have no Torah, and we don't have a job. אפשר רבנו תם יעמיד משנתנו במה שחייב להקדיש רבו זמן להביא טרף לביתו. תפלה רמו ב, וחייב לפרנס. רבנו תם says we have to bring food to the table, and we have to run for the table. Not run for the table, bring the food to the table, פרנסה. שהוא בכלל מה שאומרו בכתובות, עושה צדקה בכל עת. in מסכת כתובות, in page 50 it says, he brings the page 50 עמוד ב', it says in the תהילים, עושה צדקה בכל עת. You should do tzedakah every second. Over there in the כתובות, huh? So, the beautiful, בכל, עושה צדקה בכל עת, how is it possible? You have a kids in your house, they open a refrigerator anytime, 24/7, that means you're doing tzedakah every second. Never thought about it. Because you open the refrigerator, it's open, and you have a food, עושה צדקה בכל עת. But you're going to say, excuse me, that's not tzedakah, I'm giving my kids food, this is my kids. This is also considered part of the tzedakah. That's why the Chachamim says, be careful in your house, with your family, with your wife, and with your kids. Why? Because they depend on you. If they depend on you, you have to treat them right. So I'm giving you all my billions to you, all my kids. So enjoy it. So that's what it says, be careful in everything that you do. Because they depend on you. וזה את בניו ובנותיו, וזה הזן את בניו ובנותיו כשהם קטנים, ואין מנוס אם לא עושה דרך ארץ עיקר. He says, the kids in a house, and they're eating, like we said it before, and the food is available, they have no money to buy, you have the obligation to do everything possible to be done for them to be nourished. הביע דברי רבנו תם, קשה הוא, כתב, ראה חיים עם האישה אשר אהבת, ואין האישה עיקר מן החיים. He says, excuse me, ראה חיים עם האישה אשר אהבת. He says, you give me life and you give me a wife. He says, what's important, the life or the wife? It depends how you ask. The Chazal says, of course, the life. Right? ויש לומר דרשינן קרא בקידושין אם אישה ממש היא, כשם שחייב להוציאה אישה, כך חייב ללמוד אומנות. It says מסכת קידושין, page 30 עמוד ב'. It says, we obligated to get married, and we obligated to learn profession. וכיוון שחיים היינו אומנות, האישה עיקר מן האומנות. He says, what comes in a מסכת קידושין? He says, we first get married, then you need to have a profession. So from here we see what's considered profession. Profession considered is a life. Because if a person has a life, he's keep living, he's keep eating, and he has a life. לכאורה למה מעסיק בקידושים שם? אם התורה היא, כשם שחייב ללמוד תורה, כך ילמוד אומנות. He says the way you have to obligated to learn Torah, the same way you obligated to have profession. There's a one nation in the world, it's a Jewish nation, the most nation that's investing, and the Gemara over there it says, in the kids, which is the future generation. There is no education is priority in our whole Torah for the kids. In the future, Veshinata v'dibarta bam. In the future for the kids, we invest in the kids so the generation will be prosperity. That's why the Jewish, they say that something is different. Because the first thing we have to, the Gemara teaches us, we have to teach our kids a profession. Without the profession, chas v'shalom, they're going to grow up and they're going to steal. When you teach them profession, they're not going to steal. אם התורה שהם חייב ללמוד, כך ללמוד אומנות. אם כן, תורה עיקר מן האומנות. So he says, we have to learn Torah and we have to have a profession. אין כמה שדרך ארץ עיקר. But we said דרך ארץ, which just means also going to work, it's also the main thing. It's a contradiction. ומה שכתבו לנו, חייב לקבוע רוב זמנו למלאכה להביע טרף לביתו. He says we must bring parnasa to the house. Everybody gonna love this shiur. They're gonna not obligate themselves to say, you see, I'm all day busy with the work. I cannot come to the shiur. I need to support my family. Everybody loves the shiur. And the ladies is listening is even better because the husband is in the house at nighttime. He's not going to a shiur. She says, that's the greatest thing. Now I could go with my friends every day and hang out. That's the worst party you could have in your house. When a wife goes out every day and hangs out every day. That's the worst thing you could do. Because two, father and a mother needs to take care of the family. How you take care of it from two sides. But to go out every day, Ayom v'nora. Hashem yirachem aleinu. And Hashem yirachenu on this type of families. ושוב ראיתי מה שכתוב בזה אלגזי בספר ליכוד, בפתח עיניים. יפה תלמוד תורה עם דרך ארץ, שהגעת שניהם משכחת עוון. וכל התורה אשר עמו מלאכה סופו בטלה גוררת עוון. You have דרך ארץ, you have a Torah, דרך ארץ, you're going to forget about the sin. But you're going to say, I'm going to learn later. I'm going to come to shiur later. He says, you're going to continue doing sin, and a sin, because mitzvah goreret mitzvah. Mitzvah brings a person to the mitzvah. A sin brings the avera, goreret avera. And when a person says, I'm going to do later, he's never going to have time. Never in his life is going to have time. Because that later is going to be another later, and that later is going to be another later. You ask anybody that's sitting over here, anybody, 80, 90 years old, you're going to tell him, how did you become age 80, 90? He says, I don't even believe it. Yesterday I was 2 years old. Today is 90 years old. Which just means the time is flying, kehereb ein, like a blink of an eye. Don't even know about it. זה מה שאמרו רבי יהודה. כל מי שאינו מלמד את בנו אומנות, כאילו מלמדו ליסטות. Rabbi Yehuda says somebody is not teaching his kids profession, which is when they grow, it's like teaching them how to steal. שכיוון שלא למד אומנות ויחסר לחמו, ילך את פרשת דרכים להסתים את הבריות. Rashi says, if you're not going to teach him profession, he's going to go on the streets and he's going to steal and he's going to get connected with the bad people. Bayalkud tov chokhmah im hanachala. He says we have to be knowledgeable with the nachala, which is means inherited, that we're supposed to be inherit. Kamo sheshanu yafeh talmud Torah im derech eretz. Good learning with the proper education and proper path of the person. Maaseh ba'ashir gadol maskil v'chacham. It was one ashir, a very rich person. He was very chacham, knowledgeable, and very, very understanding what's happening. שהיה לו בן יחידי ולומדו תורה עד גיל 18. He had only one son, this rich guy, and he taught him Torah until age 18. ואז קודם שעשה אישה, בקש ממנו שילמוד מלאכת צורף. He says, before you get married, I'm going to give you a profession, how to clean the gold. להזמין לביתו צורף אומן גדול כדי שילמד. You brought him how to polish gold, has to do. He got him the professional guy who was going to teach him the business. בנו מלאכה, והבן לא היה רוצה לטרוח ללמוד מלאכה כלל. The son says, I'm not going to learn, and I don't want to learn. No profession I want to learn. ואמר לאביו, למה לנו כל התורך הזה? הלא השם חנן אותנו עושר גדול. He says, hey, you're a rich father. I'm the only son. What I need a profession? I don't need no profession. עד שאתה מפרנס בחינם כמה משפחות של עניים ואלמנות יתמים, ולמה זה אנוכי יגיע לריק ללמוד מלאכה? He says, you be given so many to poor people, to the widows. Why I need to learn the profession? We have so much money. Hashem blessed us. ואף על פי כן אבי מפציר בו מאוד ללמוד מלאכה זו. He says, anyways, I'm teaching you to learn the profession. וניתץ אבי לשחט אותו, שעל כל יום שילמד מלאכה יקבל 5 דינרי זהב. He says, he bribed his child. He says, every day you use profession, you're going to learn profession, I'm going to give you 5 golden coins. וגם אומן שיהיה מומחה מאוד במלאכה, להשכיל להבין עליו את המלאכה, בעשתו לפניו כמה תכשיטים יפים מאוד. והפלא. He says, this professional guy, a jeweler, he showed him also how to make beautiful, beautiful earrings. עד שיסכים הבן, then the son says, okay, if you give me every day 5 golden coins, I'm going to learn the profession. ולמד את המקצוע מלאכה צורף בשלימות, ועושה כמה נסיעות, מפני אומן והצליח. He became professional, the son. He became successful and successful. בסיום לימודו, when he finished everything that he needs to learn, לקח בן את הכלי, כל כלי אומנות, והכניסם לחדר אחד לסגר עליו, ואחת 10 שנים מוותר את האב העשיר. He says whatever he did, all the jewelry he puts inside the room, after many years his father passed away. והבן ירש את כל הממונו. The son, he inherited all the money from the richness of his father. נכסי דייני ודלעדי נידה, מצורות כסף וזהב, להתחיל לפרנס את עצמו מן העזבון אשר אביו. He says whatever the father left him, he was eating and eating. אך בגלל הוא שחוזר בעולם, אך גלגל, that's the worst thing. What goes around, comes around, poorness came to him. It's like a גלגל. שאחר 3-4 שנים, לא נשאר דבר מן whatever the father left him, 3-4 years, nothing left in his hands. עם טעם, כסף, להתחיל למכור מיד את הרחיתים של הבית. Little bit by little bit, he starts selling furniture. לצורך פרנסתו, פרנס ביתו, for his house, for his households, he starts selling. ושוב נזכר במלאכת הצורף אשר לימות אביו. Whatever the profession his father taught him, he right away remembers it. כמעט בעל כורחו, he forced himself to go to work. מיד פתח את החדר, שם נמצאים כלי אומנותו. Whatever the tools that he had, that he has to be a jeweler in that room, he remembered it and he took it from that room. יתחיל לעבוד מלאכה זו, הצליח מאוד במלאכתו. He became the best jeweler and he became professional. פרנס ברווח בשפע רב. Hashem has blessed him. בכל יום שאין נכנס לעשות מלאכה, היה מברך ברכת המתים את אביו. ואמר, every day when he used to go to work, before he used to go to work inside his room, he was probably Bukharian, I don't know. He used to bless his father. What he used to say? היה מברך ברכת המתים את אביו. He used to give him the blessing. מנחתו כבוד בגן עדן. He used to say, let my father, מנחתו כבוד בגן עדן. נשמתו צרורה בצרור החיים. He says, let his neshama supposed to be go up and up and up. ואשתו שמעת את דבריו פעם. His wife heard it. He's all the time blessing his father. The father already passed away. And he says, מנחתו עדן, מנחתו. Every day is the same thing. שאלה אותו אשתו, יש לי פליה לך, כי הנה בעת שרשת את כל האוצרות של הכסף והזהב, שיניח לאביך מנוחה. לא ברכת אותו כלל. He says, when your father left you all the gold and diamonds and silver, you never blessed him, מנוחתו עדן, that you should go to Gan Eden. And why all of a sudden you blessing him? מדוע רק אתה שאתה טורח ועוסק במלאכה הצורף? He says, right now all of a sudden you start doing jewelry, business and work, you start blessing him. פיך מלא תהילות ברכות לומר לאביך מנוחו. He says, you start praising your father, and every day he's praising his father. It's already many years passed by. אשיב דע לך. He says, you have to know. שבא אביו ללמוד מלאכה זו, לא השכלתי לדעת מה התועלת תצמח לי ממנה. He says, when my father told me, I did not took serious. I didn't know what's going to happen from it. I didn't care. I was careless. And he gave me a bribe. He gave me 5 coins every day, 5 golden, so I'd be learning. וסירבתי לשבת ללמוד מלאכה זו. He says, I don't want it, it's not for me. כי הדבר עליי לטרוח. It was a weight for me. איך אומרים לטרוח? I didn't want it. עד שאבי המנוחה היה, he gave me שוחד, he gave me a bribe. 5 זהובים, על כל יום יעשה מלאכה. זה כדי שילמד, אבי המנוחה היה איש חכם הרואה את הנולד. My father knew the future. He saw how much he was smart. And he says, this is the best job for you. שהרי כל אותו ממון של עזבון, עליו והלך. He says, whatever the money he gave me, everything is gone. אלמלא מלאכה זו, if I would not have this profession, היינו כולנו עתה גוונים ברעב. He says, everybody would have been already hungry. אך אתה ידעת כמה טובה גדולה עשה עמי אבי המנוח. He says, my father did such a great thing for me. I cannot even explain. לכן אני משכיל לשבח ברכתו בכל ליבי, שיהיה נשמתו צרורת בחיים. He says, that's why I'm all the time praiseworthy my father, that he gave me this type of profession, and every day I'm given a blessing. So what do we learn from here? It's good to have a profession, but it's also to must be learning Torah. בעזרת השם, השם should give us ברכה, הצלחה, ששון ושמחה, בריאות, הרבה נחת. So like we say in the Masechet Shabbat, that נתת ונשאת באמונה וקובע עתים לתורה. וכן יהי רצון ונאמר אמן.